धार्मिक गिरिधारी शिशि राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जाए। श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन जू की जाए। नित्यालल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत स्मर भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जय। नित्यालल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत स्मर भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्यालल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत स्मर भक्ति वेदांत साई महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्यालल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत स्मर भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्यालल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत स्मर भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्यालल प्रविष्ट महाभागवत श्री गोरक्षरस बाबाजी महाराज की जय। नित्यालल प्रविष्ट श्री सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नित्यालल प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूपानु गौड़ीय गुरु वर्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शार गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदादि श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जय। नाम अक्षय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौरमंडल ब्रजमंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट विदात गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योग माया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। जय नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत स्मर भक्ति रक्षक श्रीधर गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। जय जय श्री दैनिक नादिया प्रकाश की जय। All the periodicals of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada and all of his followers ki jai. Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Hare Krishna. Okay, I'll do the Mangala Charan and then we'll begin. These Mangala Charan verses were written by Srila. These ones were written by Srila Bhakti Rakṣaka Śrīdhāra Goswami Mahārāja. These two. Ajnānatimirandhasya jnānanjana shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Guruve namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Shri Siddhanta Saraswati Tividito Kodiya Gurvan Paye Bhato Bhanuriva Prabhata Gagane Yogora Sankirtanai Maya Varati Mingilo Daragatan Udritya Jiva Niman Krishna Prema Sudabdika Gahana Sukham Pradat Prabhum Tang Bhaje Vande Bhakti Vinodam Shri Gaura Shakti Swarupakam Bhakti Shastragya Samrajam Radharasa Sudhanidhim Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Tavaiva Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshya Ikshiptastakama Ditaranga Madhe Kripa Mai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanāravindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, pranams, Ashray Prabhu and Sarveshwari Mataji, Nuri Hari Prabhu, Bhavatarani Mataji, Satya Mataji, Śrīvāsa Prabhu, Gavin Myers, Sridevi Didi, and let's see who's there on YouTube and Facebook. And I see a few devotees on YouTube and Facebook, but there aren't any comments, so I don't know who you are, but pranams to whoever you are. All right, so we are continuing on with our, usually it's every Sunday, but this time Śrīvāsa was traveling on Sunday, so we're having our Dainika Nadīyā Prakāśa, our 15th Dainika Nadīyā Prakāśa session. And today we have, I don't actually know what's on, I don't totally know what's the program today. Śrīvāsa, are we going to read this full magazine, or are we going to read the articles by Śrīla Bhakti Rakṣaka, like you mentioned there are 3 articles by Śrīla Bhakti Rakṣaka Gosvāmī Mahārāja for Dainika Nadīyā Prakāśa?
I was thinking just to read the whole article and the whole issue.
Okay,
and,
great.
Yeah.
All right, so we will be reading this. We moved a little bit ahead so that we could read this article by Śrīla Bhakti Rakṣaka Gosvāmī Mahārāja, and then we'll go back to where we were before, like the sequence. But yeah, and since his disappearance day was yesterday, so in his honor, we're going to read an article. And was this article, I mean, his name is signed like from his name from his previous ashram, but I wonder if I don't know what year he took Diksha and all that. Like, was he a sannyasi by this point, or was he a brahmachari?
No, I'm not sure when he took sannyas, but I'm pretty sure this is this is prior to that, prior to his taking sannyas. If he had taken sannyas, they would have put his sannyas name.
Okay. All right.
Do you remember you were reading yesterday? There was a lapse of 4 years until he took a Diksha from Srila Prabhupada. Do you remember? You were reading?
Yeah, but I don't remember what years they were.
I think it was 20 and then 24 or 22 and 26.
Wow, you have such a good memory. Okay, and this issue that we're reading is from 1928.
Oh, okay.
So I guess, I mean, I was thinking maybe because also Śrīla Bhakti Rakṣaka Gosvāmī Mahārāja has the last name Bhaṭṭācārya, you know what I mean? Like, and his BA degree, and like, so for preaching purposes also.
Right.
Looks like he took sannyas in 1930, so 2 years after this.
2 years after. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All
right, so I'm going to hand it over to Śrīvāsa and we'll begin.
All right, and I can share. Let me share.
Oh, yes. Or would you prefer I share? Either way is fine.
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. Yeah. You have the file. Okay, I'm just going to jump right in. So we're jumping ahead, okay, maybe like over 20 issues further, to May 1st, 1928. And we're going to be jumping into the middle of a few ongoing series. So the first one is this, it's called Prachinatam Aitiya, which just means ancient history, or the most ancient history. And well, I'm really excited to get to this this series. It's a really interesting take on the Puranic histories and kind of interprets them in a way that's understandable for us and for scholars in modern times. But this portion is just about the history of the caste system. So we'll just start with that. So the history of Varna. Inhabitants of the city gradually started forming a cohesive society and expanding their domain. When the rishis living in the forest saw the joys and fortunes enjoyed by the city-dwelling devas, they began to regard the devas as more fortunate than them. Gradually, the rishis took shelter of the devas. So it's explained earlier that first is the there's like different periods. So there's a period where it's the Prajapatis who are setting up their settlements, their towns. And then there's the Manus and the Devas. So the Devas are like the third kingdom of the Vedic times. And so initially the Devas are, the personalities we know as Indra, Varuna, Agni, but over time it's explained that it was actually just a civilization of men and people who rose to occupy certain stations, their king would be known as Indra. So not the original Indra. Anyways, so the devas are living in the cities and the rishis are forest dwellers. Gradually, the rishis took shelter of the devas. At that time, the devas looked upon the forest-dwelling rishis with affection. The rishis would also invite the devas at the time of yajna and would grant them the remnants of the yajna via hymns and prayers. At that time, there were only two varnas, these two, the devas and the rishis. There were only two castes or divisions in society. It is not within human nature to tolerate the everlasting dominion of one party over another forever. The rishis honored the devas for a long time. Eventually, the descendants of the devas turned into naras, humans. The rishis would perform their yajnas and maintain the social customs by inviting the devas. Gradually, as the children of the devas became manavs, humans, they now began receiving honor as kings. The forest-dwelling rishis came to be known as brahmanas, after Brahma. The children of the devas began spending their days as kings of the earth and men, respected protectors of the land. The power of the brahmanas began to grow exponentially. They exceeded the kings in the cultivation of knowledge and in many fields of expertise. It got to the extent that the rulers of the land were given the position of being the protectors of the brahmanas by the brahmanas. From this point onward, they received the title kshatriya. The brahmanas are bhudeva, lords of the earth. They made dominion over the earth their own and entrusted the burden of defending it into the hands of kshatriyas. In some places, or in some cases, there were special marriages arranged between brahmanas and kshatriyas. In some places, great conflicts broke out. During this period, the kshatriyas enjoyed only temporary settlement rights to the land. Other people, including brahmanas, who were dependent on the king, were given short-term leases. So there's a hierarchy of brahmanas that starts to come in. There was a lower class brahmana that were dependent on the king, and they were given these leases. The class of people who received all these parcels of land eventually became known as Vaishyas. So the whole series really hones in on the fact that there is no such thing as caste, actually, that all living beings, but to speak of humans, all creatures are brahmanas, means they're children of Brahma. So that's just a short snippet from that series, and we'll get to dig into that more.
How will
really
reconcile that with the verse of the Bhagavad Gita? Sorry, Prabhu, I interrupted. But how would you reconcile that?
Well, in Gita it just says the guna karma vibhagasha, that the varnas were divided according to your guna and in karma, and it's describing the same thing. but it's that, so the karma was actually, was something that unfolded over a long period of time, where initially there was no distinction, but as it was just described here, as the rishis, cultivated knowledge more and then entrusted, certain roles of defense to the descendants of the devas, who were men, then
right.
the Brahmins.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, it's mind-blowing. I mean, because if you go on the internet, they're talking about the origins of human society. And in this one, they said the devas eventually, through passage of time, they became naras. We're just reading that. So that's mind-blowing. This is the first time I heard this. My God. Wow. Go on.
Yeah, which really, it's interesting because it lines up with Greek mythology, the understanding, the children of the Poseidon and Zeus, and then it lines up with the Sumerian mythology of the Anunnaki.
Right.
And the Vedas are saying the same thing. Yeah, it's interesting.
Very interesting.
So, the glory of Bengal, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, continued from the previous issue. So this again is another article about Mahaprabhu's birthplace. We have lots of these. So this is, who will pass judgment? Determining Mahaprabhu's birthplace and the surrounding area is not just some mundane historical thing or task. Mahaprabhu's devotees, the Goswamis, have said that the place of Bhagavan's Janma Lila is a manifestation of Shuddha Sattva in the form of Sandhini Vritti, manifesting from Bhagavan's Antaranga Shakti. Therefore, to incinerate the unerring conclusion of Mahaprabhu's devotees, the Goswamis, in the fire of mental speculation going on in the heads of those averse to Bhagavan, and so-called refine it in the flawed scholarly conflagration of the mundane literateurs and historians, or in other words, to think that the Adokshaja Dham, divine abode beyond the perception of the senses, of Sri Gaura's birthplace, will be determined or assessed by means of Arohavad, the forceful ascending process, is opposed to Mahaprabhu and the Goswamis. So, the real lineage of Mahaprabhu's devotees will never accept such a venture. If there is a judge or chairman who has filled themselves up with hearing the topics of Adhokshaja Vichar, conceptions beyond the purview of the senses, from Gurupada Padma, a genuine guru, and who is free from the flaws of Brahm, error, pramad, confusion, karanapatav, sensory ineptitude, vipralipsa, cheating propensity, then let them be entrusted with the burden of deliberating on the determination of Mahaprabhu's birthplace, Sri Gaura's birthplace. Otherwise, let a committee be formed of uncontestedly nishkinchan, truly renounced, siddha, perfected Mahapurushas, exalted personalities, who are likewise devoid of Brahm, Pramad, etc. Gaura's transcendental birthplace can never be determined by selecting some flawed, unperfected, conditioned soul just because they have a materially prestigious position, or by nominating numerous such flawed living entities to be chairmen or committee members. All the unbiased, neutral people will only accept the conclusion of a truly qualified chairman or of a committee as an unbased, factual conclusion, of a truly qualified chairman or committee as an unbiased, factual conclusion. If some Jivan Mukta, liberated while living, neutral, unmotivated, unbiased Mahapurush, like Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Sri Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, were to accept the seat of chairman for this assembly and determine where Gaura's birthplace is, then the real site of his birth could be determined. Otherwise, no matter how erudite a conditioned soul may be, how intelligent, how rich, or how renowned and respected he may be, what capacity does he have to reject the conclusion of Vaishnava Sarvabhauma, who was devoid of Brahm Pramad and other flaws? If someone puts all the stamina they have into trying to jump into a realm that is simply beyond them, they will reap the opposite of success. If you try to spit into the sun, your spit is just going to end up falling on you. Ew. Just as the conclusions of historians that are opposed to Shruti, the Vedas, are just atheism, just as the historian's determination of Krishna's identity or Krishna's birth and activities by historical evidence alone is just a type of atheism. In the same way, trying to discern the transcendental Dham, Mahaprabhu's birthplace, by collecting the opinions or votes of a bunch of conditioned souls who do not follow the Shrota path, the Vedic path, and depend on their own capacity, is simply acting in opposition to Mahaprabhu's Siddhanta. A decision that is to be determined by this sort of deliberative process, or the preconceived biased decision that has already been determined under the guise of impartiality, will never be accepted by Mahaprabhu's true community of devotees as the final decision. This will only result in something that is indirectly beneficial to the devotees, as the devotees see the silver lining of Krishna's blessings in all adversities. This is much like one sect of Buddhists relying on historical scholarship and erudition to reach a final decision regarding Buddha's identity, which resulted in the creation of a large atheistic Buddhist sect, while another sect, adopting the Vedic judicial process and accepting Vyasa's infallible words, recognize Buddha as an avatar of Vishnu and consider themselves Vaishnavas. The same will happen here. Even though both factions here appear to accept Mahaprabhu and are attempting to determine his birthplace, one group, like the Buddhists who abandoned the Vedic path, will accept Mahaprabhu in word only, but act against him, deluded by Mahaprabhu's Maya. The other group, even though fewer in number, just as there are more Buddhists than Vaishnavas, will accept the Vedic path, and recognizing the birthplace of the Lord as determined by the Vaishnava emperor, by Vaishnava Sarvabhauma, and foremost among Gaura's devotees, the faultless and impartial great saint Śrīla Jagannatha Babaji Maharaj, will remain eternally devoted to Gaura's service. Their steadfast adherence to the Vedic path will never be disrupted. So that's more strong advocacy of the original birthplace of, the true birthplace of Sriman Mahaprabhu.
And we're going to be going over, like, hearing about this topic about Mahaprabhu's birthplace for probably years, right? Like, how many articles are there? There's like tons,
yeah,
right?
I mean, every article I've translated so far has at least one article, but usually more, dedicated to this topic. And I mean, it could be compiled into quite a large book. But I find it really helpful to see every argument different. Some articles come with a kind of sarcastic tone. Some are people writing in, so their letters and expressing their opinions. But you really start to get a picture of what the characters involved and what their motives were. And it starts, and then they present, very clear lists of the archaeological evidence, records by different British generals who did surveys, and before anybody had any motive to make a business out of Mahaprabhu's birthplace. And so it starts to become pretty clear what the fact of the matter is.
We're going to become so established in this topic by the end of this.
There's not going to be any doubt.
We'll be ready to debate anybody.
Yeah, that's good, probably. Yeah, let's keep it up.
All right, so now this next one, this is Srila Bhakti Rakṣaka Śrīdhāra Maharaj's article. And I was so pleasantly surprised to see this beautiful name, Sri Rāmendra-sundara Bhaṭṭācārya, such a beautiful name.
And it's very rare that the author's name is given, isn't it? That
Yeah,
it's given
yeah, it is. There's one other person, Radha Charan Goswami, and then Srimad Atindriya Bhakti Gunakar Prabhu, the one who composed the Bhakti Gaudiya Kantahar. His name is also given. So just, I guess, a few distinguished scholarly people. Even Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's own name isn't given. When it's one of his articles that comes from the Gaudiya, his name isn't given. Of course, if anything that Bhakti Śrīla Bhakti Mahārāja is writing, he doesn't put his name. But yeah, any other distinguished scholar like this is given their byline. All right, so this is a cute, sweet little article with a story. There was a gentleman, and this is called O Bābā Balācce, which means, "Oh Baba, he's tricking me." There was a gentleman who had a son. When the son reached the appropriate age for education, the father, like any other guardian, went to great effort to try to provide him with a proper education. However, the boy showed an extraordinary aversion to studying. The father then became worried about his son's future and made a great many efforts to get him to learn, but eventually became disheartened and hopeless. Finally, one day, an experienced teacher, upon learning of this trouble, offered to teach the boy with a clever method. Upon investigation, he discovered that the boy had a great fondness for food, been entirely dominated by his sense of taste. The teacher seized this opportunity and captivated the boy with discussions of various food items and their qualities. Gradually, he had the boy say the names of fruits, such as mango, blackberry, jackfruit, banana, etc., many times. Then, feeling somewhat hopeful, the teacher then said, "Say ka," which is like say A, B. It's the first letter of the alphabet in Hindi or Bengali. The boy's trance was suddenly broken. It suddenly hit him like lightning that this whole interaction had been a setup to get him to say ka. He exclaimed, "Oh Baba, he's tricking me. Oh Baba Balācce." He's tricking me into speaking the alphabet. If we introspect with a steady mind, we see that our condition is even more hopeless than that of this boy. The world teachers, the Vaishnavas, out of their natural magnanimity, have foreseen our soul's fate with their divine vision and, feeling compassionate, are taking various measures to bring our materialistic minds to the right path. They are going to so much effort to give us the opportunity to engage in the practice of devotion by providing us with varieties of wondrous Mahaprasad, etc., on the pretext of giving us things we want to enjoy. But what are we doing? As long as we do not experience any semblance of transcendence in these imaginary worldly enjoyments, we engage in some minimal practice in the company of saints. But as soon as we see detachment from impermanent matters, which is the infallible result of saintly association appearing, we get startled. Despite realizing the inherent loathsomeness of the worst version of ourselves, the result of materialistic tendency fostered by our minds that has sunk into the very marrow of our bones over countless births, we do not wish to let go of it. Instead, we tremble at the prospect of its disappearance, fearing self-destruction. Just as the boy was indifferent to his future prospects in the world, we too wish to remain entirely blind to the fate of our own souls. Alas, if we really reflect on our condition, we can see that we cannot even compare our pitiful state to that of this boy. What the boy is losing in exchange for what he is gaining is practically of the same caliber. Because the indulgences of the tongue and the cultivation of material knowledge, the purpose of which is to enhance indulgence, are actually the same thing. Both are materialistic, fleeting, and illusory objects of achievement. The things we are knowingly forsaking, however, despite constantly hearing the thunderous warnings from the Sri Gaudiya Math and witnessing the monks' efforts to soothe our destitute hearts with the nectar of Harikatha and to enrich us with prem, divine love, versus the things we are deluded by and attached to, are so vastly different, like heaven and hell. One is worldly, the other is eternal. One is utterly trivial, the other is supremely precious. One is associated with birth, death, old age, and disease. The other grants eternal, transcendental bliss. One is a product of material illusion. The other is pure and devoid of material qualities. In short, one is incessant suffering, the other is unending joy. Given this sort of situation, I ask the wise and straightforward readers, if we all genuinely wish to rectify in ourselves the tendencies that are like those of that boy, then what should be the course of our life's actions as we attempt to discern what is eternal and what is temporary? Is the conduct and preaching of the Sri Gaudiya Mutt not precisely what we need? So it's interesting. I feel like I can hear his style, his tone in this, from whatever I've read of books like Sri Guru and His Grace. But he's definitely coming at it from a more like the way he refers to the Sri Gaudiya Mutt. He's almost taking the position of a neutral observer or something.
What do you think? Perhaps a newcomer?
A newcomer, yeah.
Yeah.
So the next one is Manodharmir Parinam, the fate of following the mind's dictates. So this also is a story. Oh Haridas, you keep shouting about dharma. And what are you meditating on in the morning, afternoon, and evening? And most of the time you are fingering your beads. Have you heard what has become of Kalidas Babu? Said a bachelor's degree student named Nalini, laughing as he entered the study room of his childhood friend Haridas Babu. Nalini Babu's full name was Nalinikanta Chattopadhyay. He had been indifferent to religion since childhood. His belief was that religion, particularly Vaishnavism, was merely a means for lower class people to fill their bellies. Therefore, if he ever saw anyone, especially a university graduate or a college student, chanting Hari's holy name, he would mock and annoy them to no end. He had a stylish, butterfly-shaped mustache adorning his face. His lips were stained with betel nut. His lit cigarette seemed to highlight his intellectual acuity. On the other hand, Haridas was adorned with a simple wrap and an unsewn upper garment. On his 12 limbs, there were 12 tilaks. He had a tuft of hair at the back of his head and a necklace of tulsi beads graced his neck. Since childhood, he had a deep faith in dharma. However, he did not blindly believe whatever was said about religion. The 5 abodes of Kali never found any hold on him. He did not take initiation from his family guru, because that guru's conduct was not in accordance with the scriptures. This caused his parents and guardians to be displeased with him, but he did not care in the least that they were dissatisfied. He fervently prayed to Bhagavan to grant him the mercy of a true guru, and Bhagavan Shri Krishna, pleased with his prayer, arranged a meeting with a great Paramahamsa, Vaishnava saint. Haridas received that Vaishnava's mercy and started wholeheartedly engaging in Bhagavad Bhajan. The other noteworthy thing about Haridas to be mentioned in this context is that he was not a university graduate. When he passed the matriculation exam in the first division at the age of 16 and went to enroll in college, the professor refused to admit him because he did not conform to the contemporary student's stylish attire, especially due to the tuft of hair on his head. Haridas told the college principal right to his face, "If this is what the management of the college is like, then I don't care for it," and left, never seeking admission in any other college. He remained at home, immersing himself in scriptural studies. Upon seeing Nalini Babu arrive all of a sudden, Haridas Brahmachari paused his reading, offered Nalini a seat, and asked, "Which Kalidas Babu?" Nalini Babu replied, "You've gotten so engrossed in religion that you've lost touch with the world. I'm talking about our senior mathematics teacher, Kalidas Rai, Masters of Science." Haridas, "Oh, I remember him. What happened to him? He was a good guy." Nalini, "He was good, just like you. He too used to go on and on about religion. Despite his parents urging, he didn't marry. He even left his job to become a renunciate. One day, while begging under the scorching sun, he fainted in a field. A kind person saw him in that state, took him home, and nursed him back to health. Kalidas Babu stayed in this gentleman's home for a while and ended up marrying the man's only daughter. And now he's living in that house." Hearing this, Haridas sat quietly in deep contemplation for a while and then said, "Nalini Babu, this is the result of following the mind's dictates, without receiving the mercy of a true guru, and without following his guidance. Acting according to the mind or whims can never produce good results." And that's it. That's the article. So the moral of the story is, take shelter of a bona fide guru, or else you might end up fainting in a field one day and marrying the daughter of the kind person who takes care of you. Jivan Upai, means of life or livelihood. Okay, let me just see, how long is this? Yeah, this is a bit longer. And then it's to the news. Okay. So, Jivan Upai, means of life. When a saint comes and says, "Engage in worshipping Bhagavan," people often feel he has made a great imposition on them. They think, right, I have to take care of my wife, children, relatives, maintain my land, seek happiness and peace in the world. I have to do all of this, everything. How am I supposed to have time to call out to God now? Let old age come, let the children grow up, let me settle things here first, then perhaps I can spend a few days peacefully chanting Bhagavan's names. What do sadhus have to worry about? They don't have to think about their meals. They just say a few words, begging, and that is sufficient. How can we become devotees now? If everyone becomes a devotee, how will the world function? If we listen to everything the scriptures say, how can we get any work done? People regard Hari Bhajan as some unnatural activity, and this gives rise to many pointless fears, and they become agitated thinking about it. To correct that 1 second. They believe that to become a devotee, one has to turn into some peculiar, outlandish person. But won't they understand that this is not the case? Their bodies will stay the same. Their minds will be the same. The actions of the body and the mind, eating, sleeping, and other activities will continue as they are. But there might not be any need to change anything externally. But the purpose must change, must completely change. That is the distinction. Body, home, wealth, family, all the objects of this world are not meant for my enjoyment, but for Krishna's enjoyment. By offering enjoyment to Krishna, the remnants of what he has enjoyed, called Mahaprasad, become my rightful possession. This is the mindset of the devotee. The karma-bound ritualists perform actions with a different intent, and then pretend to offer those actions to Bhagavan. However, Bhagavan says, Yat karoshi yadashnasi yadjuhosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushya mad arpanam. O Kaunteya, Arjuna, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that as an offering to me. This means that all actions must be performed with the intention of pleasing Krishna, relinquishing the desire for personal sensory pleasure. This is called bhakti, or service, which is entirely different from ordinary material activities. However, one must remember one thing. As I live in this material realm, I am reaching out to serve Krishna, who exists beyond the scope of the material realm. The more this feeling fades through the association with saints, the more our bhajan will develop and we will be able to render pure devotional service. I find this point really interesting. It's a subtle point, but the more we associate with sadhus and the more our bhajan develops, the less we'll feel like we are separated from Krishna, the less we will feel like we are situated in this material realm and trying to reach somewhere so far away from here to serve Krishna. More and more we'll feel that Krishna is, well, he's everywhere, and his dham is accessible everywhere, in the right mood. It is only by the mercy of Guru, who is non-different from Sri Baladev, the Swayam Prakash Vigraha, direct manifestation of Swayam Bhagavan Krishna Chandra, that this material perception of the living being can be eradicated, and he can attain transcendental realization or direct service. Without complete shelter at the feet of the Guru, the living being will not be able to change his mundane thought patterns. Only those who have taken shelter of the Guru can truly understand how to engage the world in the service of Bhagavan while living in it. Devotion to Bhagavan is the natural function of every living being.
Come on.
What was that? This thing called bhakti does not have to be acquired through any unnatural means. Even in a worldly context, we see that a mother does not love her child or a child his mother by reading a book or following someone's advice. The attraction they feel for each other arises, the affection they feel for each other arises naturally. The attraction between a magnet and a piece of iron is not something unnatural. A ray of sunlight cannot maintain its existence separate from the sun. There is a perpetual bond between the sun and its rays. It is very natural for every object in the world to be attracted to another. Similarly, there is a natural attraction between the living being and Bhagavan. Hence, a living being cannot refrain from serving Bhagavan. If you ask, why then does the living being not serve Bhagavan? There is a reason for this. Bhagavan is Swatantra Purush, the independent person, and the living being has received a minute portion of his independence. Unlike inert objects that are controlled by the will of others, the conscious living being can choose to use or misuse his independence. Misuse of independence results in the living being deviating from his natural state to an unnatural state, thereby experiencing various sufferings. The only way to be rescued from suffering is through association with saints. We may acknowledge the Lord, but refuse to accept his words or the instructions of the saints, scripture, and the Guru. Or we may interpret those words according to our own whims. But how can this bring any benefit? Everyone says they accept the Gita, but from the first verse to the last, Bhagavan repeatedly says that he is the root of all existence and that one should serve him. He not only says this, but also makes Arjuna swear it, because the living entities may not believe Bhagavan himself, that my devotee never perishes. Do we ever think about this? Bhagavan said, Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. O Kaunteya, swear it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Why did he make Arjuna take this vow? Bhagavan could have said, Kaunteya pratijane ham name bhakta pranashyati. O Kaunteya, I declare that my devotee never perishes. It was he who vowed that his devotees are most dear to him, saying, Satyam te pratijani priyosime. There's a reason for this, why he got Arjuna to swear. The devotee is dear to him, and there is no reason for people to disbelieve this, because even the demon Hiranyakashipu once accused the Lord of being partial to his devotees. Everyone is in unanimous agreement that Bhagavan is partial to his devotees. However, to ensure that the bound souls do not think that even a devotee faces destruction like them, and thereby lose faith in him, Bhagavan reinforced his vow by having it sworn via the mouth of a devotee. The word of a devotee never falters. Rather, Bhagavan, due to his affection for his devotees, is often compelled to break his own vow to uphold the vow of a devotee. For instance, in the battle with Bhishma, Bhagavan had vowed not to take up arms, but Bhishma's vow that he would make Bhagavan take up arms forced Bhagavan to break his own vow. The Lord is subservient to his devotees. He cannot tolerate any disrespect towards his devotees. Thus, Bhagavan said, Bahirmukhavadino Vaiṭandika mat pratigyam shutva hashishyanti Arjuna pratigyatu pāṣana rekhe veti te pratiyanti. In other words, the sophists and critics may laugh at my vow, saying that I have broken my vows many times, but they will believe Arjuna's vow, because his word is like a line etched in stone. So if Arjuna vows that a devotee will never perish, everyone will believe it. People often struggle to instill confidence in others and say with difficulty, even if I vow, you won't believe it, will you? Similarly, the Lord, not just once, but multiple times, vows himself and has his devotee vow, saying, engage yourself in my service, you will face no trouble. Yet we, unfortunate souls, cannot believe this, worrying whether our bellies will be filled. We act as if the Lord is so poor that he cannot take responsibility for feeding a few mouths like ours. The one who provided milk for us in our mother's lap will not be able to give us 2 meals if we serve him? Thinking this way only shows our misfortune. Therefore, we must worship Bhagavan. We must heed the words of the saints. The instructions for serving Bhagavan given in the words of the saints, scriptures, and gurus are not just to ensure that we do not starve or suffer. Bhagavan has made all perfect arrangements to ensure we are kept in the best of health. We think we are the doers and end up causing ourselves to become engulfed in suffering and misery. A surrendered person has no need to worry about sustenance. Bhagavan arranges everything. Bhakti does not mean laziness. Dedicating all our efforts for Krishna's sake is devotion or service. Bhagavan does not take anything away from us. He only removes our attachment to base material objects and engages us at his lotus feet. Therefore, without a drop more of hesitation, from this moment onward, we must engage in the worship of Bhagavan under the guidance of a bona fide guru. This will bring all kinds of benefits to our country and its people. So the next is Kurukshetra. This is already going into the news section. In Kurukshetra, Brahmakund, Dvaipayan, and other lakes are currently producing a large quantity of lotus flowers. The local restoration committee has auctioned the flowers from these lakes for 550 rupees. The seeds obtained from the lotus flowers are highly valued in the Amritsar region. Additionally, the roots, called mulan, and leaves are also sold. The funds collected will be used to restore the nearly dilapidated lakes. The local representative of the committee, Lala Laliram, has arranged for 10 lotus flowers to be offered daily at the Śrīvāsa Gaudiya Mat for the worship of Shri Gaur Vinod Ramji. and has expressed his willingness to supply flowers and leaves as needed for Bhagavan's service, thus undoubtedly becoming surcharged with pure loving devotion. Lala Laliram. How about that? A few days ago, the renowned Mahant of the Sri Sampradaya near Brahmakund in Kurukshetra, Sri Sarayudas, met with the Sevites of the Śrīvāsa Gaudiya Math and inquired about the well-being of Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacārya Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, offering countless obeisances. He further mentioned that when Śrīla Paramahansa Thakur had visited Kurukshetra, he had been deeply attracted to the holy feet of Sri Thakur upon seeing him and hearing his nectarian words, and therefore he always desires the association of this great soul. Okay, that might be clear. It might be unclear. This saint from the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya was deeply attracted to Saraswati Thakur when he visited. However, due to the responsibility of managing several monasteries in his lineage in various locations, he is currently unable to act according to his wishes. He is awaiting the next time Śrīla Paramahansa Thakur sets foot in Sri Kurukshetra. I'm not sure the dates when Śrīla Bhakti Rakṣaka Maharaj went to Kurukshetra, but I remember reading that he was posted there for a time. Right? Am I correct?
I think Śrīla Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Gosvāmī Mahārāja tells all about that, right?
Yeah.
Something about the exhibit, the Pradarshani's there.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's just mere coincidence or this was kind of deliberate to because there was some previous articles about asking people to I think donate for land there in Kurukshetra. And then now it seems like there is a much there. And and then there's articles by Śrīla Bhakti Rakṣaka Maharaj and reports about the place. Interesting.
Yeah, I just was wondering, maybe after the article when he took brahmachari, that his preaching assignment expanded. So I know there's a little story told by Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj, where Śrīdhara Maharaj, they spend the night with this companion, and I can't remember if they were there going to Kurukshetra, they were already arrived, they were in search for land for a mat. I believe so, but I could be wrong. But the thing that I'm right is that they had to hug each other. It was so cold. They were preaching. It was so much austerity he underwent. He was a preacher. He's so multifaceted. Then I think his guidance of the mat in Mumbai and like that.
Oh, Mumbai, okay.
Yeah, but this thing about Kurukshetra, I think that this is one occasion, might be the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder. But I know that he was a brahmachari and he was assigned to go there.
When he was still a brahmachari. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. And I didn't, and the deity's name, Gaura Vinod Ramju. Yeah, anyways. So then this is a letter about Bankim Chandra. We have a great desire to build a memorial temple in Kantalpara, the birthplace of the immortal poet Bankim Chandra, to establish a marble statue and transform this memorial into a grand literary institution. To achieve this aspiration, we have been organizing the annual Bankim Literary Conference for the past 5 years. We have invited many distinguished sons of Bengal, including Maharaj Jagadindra Nath, Deshbandhu Chittaranjan, the scholar Bipin Chandra, and Kumar Tulsi Chandra. However, this aspiration has remained just a seed. Occasionally, a sprout is seen, but when it will grow into a fruitful tree, only Kalindi Bihari Sham Sundar knows. It is true that we lack the means to build it, but where is the enthusiasm and support from the people of our country? We appeal to every son of Bengal to show enthusiasm, offer sympathy, and provide physical and financial support for this endeavor. This is our humble request. Shri Siddheshwar Majumdar, LMS, Editor, Bankim Literary Conference. I don't know anything about Bankim Chandra, but I assume he is must have Vaishnava influences for him to be mentioned here. And now with the news. Nana Katha, various matters. This time there has been an incident that truly demonstrates the adage, Guru Mara Vidya. A teacher is killed by the knowledge he imparts. According to reports from Bijnor, the headmaster of the government high school, Mr. Rup Satkar, has been killed by a gunshot fired by a student. It is said that the student had a minor dispute with the drill master and went home to fetch a gun. When the headmaster tried to reason with the student, the gun fired, hitting the headmaster in the neck. He died instantly.
Containers, and then he's got, and then I drive him up.
Oh, okay. Readers are aware that German aviators were forced to land on Greenlee Island due to issues with their aircraft while crossing the Atlantic on the Bremen aircraft. They intended to repair their aircraft and complete their journey to New York, but since the aircraft was beyond repair, reports are that another aircraft was dispatched to assist them from Greenlee Island, and they have departed from there. Lady Bailey is flying from London to Cape Town in an aircraft. She has been facing various difficulties on her journey. It is reported that she had to land in northern Transvaal due to a lack of petrol.
Do you know who Lady Bailey is?
There's an article. There's some article about her. I was looking it up. Yeah, there's these different really adventurous European women who are like driving cars across the Eurasian continent, flying airplanes across the Atlantic or Africa. It's you know, it's a whole era of adventure and
they're in the 20s. They call it roaring 20s.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And England had won the war, you know, the Allies and the independence, women's suffrage that already happened, but all this momentum, you know, women were like really pushing it.
Really empowered, yeah.
Which was great. It was great. I mean, but that's how, you know, their beginnings, yeah, like to gain equal rights and like that. But yeah, that was the 20s. So it was contagious, obviously, because there were women breaking records, like crossing the channel. And
right,
like, well, she did later. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it even made it into Dainika Nadīyā Prakāśa, all these.
Yeah, I know. What about Miss Miller? We never heard from her again. She
Miss
married
Miller.
Maharaj.
Remember? Oh yeah, there's some more. I think there's some more articles about here, I think.
Yeah, we jumped far ahead right Miller. Now. We're yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but she has dropped out. She was like dominating the Dainika Nadīyā Prakāśa for a while. Now by this point she's dropped out.
Yeah.
Next is the Afghan minister has announced that the Afghan delegation will arrive in Russia and stay in Moscow for a week. Thereafter, they will travel to Leningrad and Crimea before proceeding to Turkey. On April 26th, approximately 50,000 spectators gathered at a temple near the village of Padukota for a sacred bathing ceremony. A respected member of the Madhava community tried to forcefully enter the temple's sanctum and was beat to death then there by many people. Consequently, around 500 members of the Madhava community, extremely agitated, started attacking the crowd and set fire to the military police station. This resulted in a violent clash between the police and the Madhava, with many people from both sides injured and hospitalized. The temple is currently closed. I think this is somewhere in South India. Some time ago, there was a terrible riot between Shia and Sunni sects in, where did I go? In a region called Pira on the border of India, as a result of which the Sunnis have expelled the Shias from their land. The government of the region is trying to mediate a resolution between the two groups. However, the Darkajai, I don't know what that is. The Darkajai sect, okay, so it's a particular sect, does not want to let the Shias return to their lands. The government is making other arrangements. The strike in the Bombay mills continues as before. Occasionally, the workers display some agitation. Work is being carried out minimally in 2 or 3 mills. The workers have decided not to end the strike until their demands are met by the authorities. The governor has come to Bombay to discuss the strike with Sir Chowasji Jehangir. It is reported that he will hold discussions with representatives of the mill owners at the secretariat regarding the strike. Worker representatives are also making arrangements to present the workers' grievances to the governor. Recently, a severe fire broke out in the village of Kakraypota, near Garbhabanipur, in the Amta police station area of Howrah district, causing near total destruction of the village. Out of approximately 200 houses, only 8 to 10 remain. Even the brick houses were not spared. A woman, a child, and a cow perished in the fire. Around 700 people are now destitute and homeless. Without the kindness of compassionate countrymen and the mercy of the government, they have no other means of survival. This past 24th of April at around 1 in the afternoon, 15 to 16 shops in Katalpara village near Naihati burnt to ashes in about 20 minutes. The windows and doors of 3 brick and mortar homes were burnt. People managed to spray water on the fire with the Nadīyā jute mill's hose pipe, so the fire could not spread any further. 3 families have suddenly been put out onto the street as a result of the fire. A couple of other vendors have incurred severe loss. No one has died. And recently in Canada, in Sharanagati, the community that I grew up in was almost nearly devastated by a fire. I believe 6 homes were lost. Our home was luckily spared, and the main village was luckily spared due to the valiant efforts of firefighters and whatnot, and Krishna's mercy. It's bizarre seeing like whole homes just reduced to like a tiny pile of metal, the metal roof or whatever. And one family in particular that had moved from Eastern Canada, they lost their whole house. They were raising sheep and using the wool to make weave, they even sent some like beautiful, hand spun wool to Radharaman for clothing last year. And for some reason, their whole home just gone. So I think there's pages on Facebook if anybody wants to donate, particularly to that family and others struggling to recover. I just had to put that out there.
Definitely.
No, thank you for telling us, Prabhu. All that news was that one devotee stayed behind and everything was okay on the efforts of the firemen. But now it's been like, what, 2 months or 1 month or something like that? Yeah. And now slowly more detailed info. So I'm so sorry, express my,
Was there any kind of like insurance, or like did they just really lose everything?
No, we don't qualify for insurance from the government because we're way up in the middle of the forests, If we were in a proper township, then we'd qualify because there's emergency services and stuff. I mean, even though the firefighters come out there and work, but yeah, we don't qualify for insurance. I think it seems ridiculous. That seems like corruption. We can send billions of dollars to Ukraine, but we can't, take care of the people in Canada, when they're
wrong. Yes. Yeah. That sounds ridiculous. In Hawaii, we lived in Hawaii, we live not too close to a town, maybe 15 minutes drive. So we're like a neighborhood in the country, you know, we're pretty much country, but still you can get insurance.
Yeah.
Although they're talking about, yeah.
And you have a volcano to deal with there. So
right. So there's some people that are saying, no, we don't want to insure you because volcano is so active, and others, you know. So, but we still have insurance.
I think part of the insurance problem was that the houses were all wood burning stoves.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay. Yeah, they have their reason. Anyways. Yeah, one devotee posted a quote from Bhagavatam, a verse from Bhagavatam. It was just amazing because it was saying that just as there's no certainty of we can't have any certainty about our fates in this world. Just as when a fire burns, it will leap over one log or one tree and burn the next, and then another and another, right? And so you never know. And it's really like when I was seeing the pictures, I just couldn't believe it. You know, like the fence is fine and then the house is gone, but the trampoline survived right next to it. You know, there just seems like there was no logic to it. It's just, it's the wildfire. It's a wildfire. All right. Okay, get back to the news here. Sorry for the tangent. Today, the Lilua laborers have been running their strike for 56 to 57 days. Their future is still dark. Labor leaders are giving them all the encouragement they can. It is best if the laborers can maintain their composure. Otherwise, as they say, if you keep going from one bank of the river to the other, you lose both. You keep bouncing back and forth, you don't get either side. Recently, a meeting of dissatisfied workers in Jamshedpur was held under the chairmanship of Mr. Manek Homi. It was decided at the meeting that whatever resolution Mr. Homi would negotiate with the directors of the steel company as their representative, the strikers would agree to it. Mr. Homi advised the workers that it would be more beneficial to strike by department rather than join a general strike. However, they should remain united. He suggested that if the company does not address their grievances within a week, they should stop work for an hour across all departments to draw attention to their issues. Yeah, so there's just strikes popping up all over India in all different industries. A weekly newspaper named Banglar Bani is being published from Dhaka. Mr. Nalini Kishore Guha has taken on the responsibility of editing this newspaper. A man named Ramdas Kahar was arrested for the crime of kidnapping a minor girl. A criminal case was filed against him under sections 363 and 420 of the Indian Penal Code. The case was judged by the subdivisional magistrate, who found Ramdas guilty and sentenced him to 4 years of rigorous imprisonment. The girl has not yet been found. It seems like a light sentence for kidnapping. This past 25th of April, in the village of Jaynagar in the 24 Parganas, a terrible dacoity occurred at the home of Babu Binoy Krishna Naskar. Almost 10 to 12 armed dacoits entered the home towards the end of the night. All the inhabitants of the house, even the women, were bound hand and foot and kept in one section of the house. Then the dacoits broke into the safe and made off with 2,000 taka worth of valuables. An airplane crash has been reported near Attock. The airplane got tangled in a telegraph wire and fell into a river below. The pilot was severely injured but survived. The passengers, however, were submerged in the water with the plane. No trace of the bodies has been found. The Tata company has issued a statement addressing their workers who are sitting idle without working. In it, they tell the workers, you receive your salaries from the company profits. If you sit idle and stop working, how will the company pay you? The company is making every effort to provide you with as much comfort and security as possible. There is a provident fund, pensions for old age, bonuses are given if production reaches 1 million rupees annually. There are paid holidays. Loans are given at 3% interest for building houses. And if an accident occurs, wages are paid for 6 months or more. Yet, would you still say that the company has done nothing for you? Remember Gandhi's words, by working for Tata, you are serving India itself. Okay.
Did Gandhi actually say that?
Maybe.
And there was a conference in Gujarat, vibrant Gujarat, when Narendra Modi was chief minister there. And so through a devotee, Purushottam Das, his Shiksha Gurudev was Śrīdhāra Maharaj. And through him, I got invited. He was working, he's a chemist and biochemist working in Amul. So I got to meet Tata, and he went, there was a lot of people, and at that time, I just come back from Puri, when Gurudev entered Samadhi. So I had shaven head and a suit on, a tie, and tilak, and he came straight to me to shake hands and like that. He seemed to be a pretty pious. He's a huge guy. He was like 6'3", I think. He's descendant probably of his Tata,
Right.
owners at that time. But he was having so much trouble in Bengal with the workers that Modi was offering him to move his factories, the car producing, to Gujarat. It was like
So almost 100 years later, still having issue with the Bengali workers.
I know, so that's what I promised.
That's hilarious.
Strikes
Oh.
are very common here. It is true.
Yeah. It's
But
like
the
what is
workers don't have very...
Huh? It's the communist state, right? They've kind of kept that alive, maybe?
Yeah.
But the workers don't have very good conditions, is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah. They're just really poor. Like, I don't think they make very much money, so...
Yeah, it hasn't really improved for them, has it?
No.
Mr. Ramananda Chattopadhyay, the treasurer for the fund that was opened to aid the Lillooet strike supporters, has informed the public that the following donations have been received. From the General Secretary of the All India Trade Union Congress, Mr. N.M. Joshi, through Kishori Lal Ghosh, 200 rupees. From the Employees Association of the Imperial Bank of India, 50 rupees. Collected from the Alipur Lawyers Association through retail collection through Mr. Kishori Lal Ghosh, 10 rupees. Collected at the Wellington Square meeting, 3 rupees. Collected at the Bidan Square meeting presided over by Mr. Subhash Chandra Bose, 13 rupees and 1.5 paise. Collected at the Harish Park meeting presided over by Mr. Vijay Krishna Bose, 55.90 rupees. Total 371 rupees, 4 annas, and 3.5 paise.
I wonder if this Chandra Bose is the one, the hero of India.
Yeah.
Subhash Chandra Bose.
Yeah, he's there's a lot of stories about him in these news sections, different meetings he's going to, traveling all over India, different things he's doing.
Oh, neat.
And at one point there was even an election. He was to be elected the mayor of Calcutta, but he didn't win the election. Somebody else did. A severe storm and hailstorm occurred in Rangabaram village, which is part of Tiruchirappalli. Thousands of trees have fallen, causing significant damage to agriculture. Banana farmers alone have suffered losses of at least 25,000 rupees. Many thatched houses have also collapsed. And that is it for today. Thank you for joining and listening to Dainika Nadīyā Prakāśa.
Śrīvāsa, thank you, Prabhu.
All right, so we'll end with a short kirtan, and yeah, once again, let me just getting them down. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. We'd like to do Jaidvani.
Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Shri Shri Radha Vinambri Radha Ramana Bihari Ju Ki Jai Jai Nitilila Pravishtam Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai Nitilila Pravishtam Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Bāman Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Trivikram Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai Nitilila Pravishtam Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai Tilila Pravishtam Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Vallabh Tirtha Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai Tilila Pravishtam Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Mahārāja Ki Jai Jai Nitilila Pravishtam Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai Nitilila Pravishtam Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Pramod Puri Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai Nitilila Pravishtam Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Rakṣaka Śrīdhāra Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai Saparshad Jagaguru Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai Mahabhagavad Prabhu Shri Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Saptam Goswami Satchidananda Śrīla Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Gauri Vedanta Acharya Shri Baladev Vidyabhusham Prabhu Ki Jai Śrīla Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Tray Ki Jai Shri Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Das Thakur Ki Jai Shri Rup Sanatana Bhatti Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Sarup Damodarai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshada Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopi Go Govardhan Dwadash Shivata Mandal Dham Ki Jai Radha Kund Shyam Kund Yamunaganga Bhakti Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Sarva Vishta Pradata Shri Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai Bhakti Vigna Vinashankari Shri Nrsimha Bhagavan Ki Jai Bhakta Prabha Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Ju Ki Jai Shri Chari Dham Chari Sampradaya Chari Acharya Ki Jai Akar Matara Shri Chaitanya Mat Ki Jai Shri Keshav Ji Gauriya Mat Ki Jai Shri Rup Sanatana Gauriya Mat Ki Jai Anyanya Shakha Mat Shamuha Ki Jai Tribhuva Mangal Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Dainika Nadīyā Prakāśa Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samagata Online Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo. Thank you, Matakariji.
Thank you, Śrīvāsa. So all these articles that Śrīvāsa has been, that we read from, they are all available on the website nadiyaprakāśa.com. NADIYAPRAKASH.com. And also, if you haven't done so already, I highly recommend everybody goes to Śrīvasa's website, bigdrum.us, and subscribes so that you don't miss any of the tons of different articles and many interesting things from all places that have never been published in English before. You can get them, receive them all in your inbox whenever Śrīvasa translates something new. All right, Dandavat Pranams, Śrīvasa and Sarveshwari Mataji, Nari Hari Prabhu, Bhavatarani Mataji, Satya Mataji, Ashray Prabhu, Gavin Myers, Sridevi Didi, Anadi Krishna Prabhu, Nitai Mukesh, and Manjari Didi, and Shubhananda Prabhu, and all the devotees watching on YouTube and Facebook. Pranams, everybody. Hare Krishna. So, look forward to seeing you all for the next one. We'll be, yeah. All right. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Haribo, Satya Mataji, Radhe Radhe, Haribo.